The distortion wave that came in was more massive and violent than most of the others, but not as bad as the first one. Though I could see the distortion wave coming, it wasn't what had me on the ground waiting for things to go to black and then see the light off in the distance. Instead, I'm on the ground tripping the hell out, and not in a fun way. I can actually feel my body changing, and it's weird. Everything feels off. Something's very off. And then suddenly my waist felt very, very painful, as though my belt was shrinking, crushing my pelvis. Maneuvering my hand up, I had to go by touch, even though I couldn't do much anything. Thankfully, I was able to pop my belt buckle, and the relief was so good. It was though I had been holding on to a shit for 3 days, and I finally was able to drop it. Yet I still found myself falling flat onto my face onto the ground as my brain went into overdrive, and it seemed like everything else shut off. As I was conscious during the whole thing, it was like the chemical damage done since I was still wet behind the ears was being reinserted and then rejected at the same time. The damage from shots that I was forced prior to going to school, especially the private school, the ones that fried my ability to do math in my head, seemed to suddenly heal back. I was swimming in memories and knowledge that had been inaccessible before. This would be truly amazing if I could actually move and concentrate enough to focus on one thing, but everything was running in fast forward. It was like a wall of screens. Your mind is constantly moving, but the screens are constantly changing what channel they're on. And yet these are big screens, so you're just out of it. My body had changed, and I knew it, yet I still couldn't move. My body and mind seemed to have to rewrite the codes inside due to the changes, and they were taking their sweet ass time doing it. As I laid there in the sun, I can hear my phone going off in the distance. I can't move to look at it, but I do recognize it in the distance. Family and friends must be checking in, probably wondering why I'm not the one sending the first message. I want so bad to reach for it and tell them I'm alright, but I just can't move. My mind must have been trying to work things out subconsciously as a memory slammed into my conscious mind. When Ruby and Hazel transformed, they couldn't move either. I remember having to carry them both into the house because their bodies had not reset yet. In fact, it took about a week before their minds finally caught up to their bodily changes. Along with that, the bodies changed slightly one more time, yet that one was due to the straightening of the seemingly weird process that we go through every few years. The 30-pound brain folks finally had figured something out. While laying on the ground, I began to think about all the different digital worlds that entered during the original distortion. All those friends, enemies, aliens, mutants, ships, vehicles, on it goes. If those crazy smart folks hadn't shifted things to only one type, well, for lack of a better term, we would be so fucked. Suddenly, I realized that something cold is poking at the side of my face. My vision isn't fully back, not to mention I'm kind of facing down towards the ground, yet all I can see is blue and purple blob in my peripheral vision. Something was there inside the light. Something pokes me and moves my head to the side. I think for a second, oh shit. I know a rifle barrel when I feel one. I think, please, Amelia, don't shoot me. Please don't shoot me. My hearing is coming back, but now I hear multiple voices, all of them female. Now I feel something else. What the hell is that? Are they trying to move me? Ouch! Okay, just don't drop me again. That hurt. Come on, I can't weigh that much. Then again, What has my body changed into? Oh, I wish I knew. Now, they're dragging me again. Okay, I can feel the grass under me as they pull. Now, something cold and hard under my back. Oh, I think it's the concrete. Wait, did they just pull me into the garage? Oh, yeah, I can smell the fuel cans. That's all I could think of while they moved me. After feeling a pillow underneath my head, I'm in and out of consciousness. Eventually, I come to, and my senses are back, and I immediately stand up. As I do, Amelia stands up from the chair and gets my attention. Looking down at her, I ask, "Hey, when did you shrink?" She gave me the slightest bit of a mote in her face that gave me a look of, "What the hell are you talking about?" Before she could even answer, Ruby and Hazel rushed in and grabbed onto my legs. Looking down, I noticed two things. One, my clothes are quite literally in tatters here, just kind of draping off me, and most of my skin is exposed. And two, the girls all seem smaller, meaning they didn't change. I did. Immediately feeling around my body, it's clear that my new muscle size and density has increased. Shit, I haven't felt muscles this dense since, well, even since my heavy workout days. They were never this good. Much of my body was now hairless, while the hair on my head was now very, very short, like some sort of crew cut or something. I haven't had hair this short since basic training. What the fuck? I asked for a mirror, but not just any mirror. Amelia ushered me towards her room where she actually had the only full-length mirror in the house. Walking into the house, it was clear that I would have to remember to duck. Smacking my head on the doorframe might have elicited a few laughs from the ladies, but for me, it just hurt, especially the second time as I was walking into Amelia's room. Standing far back from the mirror, I finally got to see myself fully, top to bottom. Holy shit. What could have possibly turned me into this? Not only am I standing at 6'10", but my body looks like a cross between a bodybuilder and an Olympic gymnast. What the hell? My skin is so damn pale, it's like I haven't seen the sun in years. My hair is short, really short. What the hell? And the rest of me looks like all my moles and hair was just lasered off. At least I'm still human, I think. Checking to see if I got wings or a tail or something. Immediately grabbing my head to see if I got horns. Ruby tells me that there are battles all over the planet. I was out for several hours, but what the hell is going on is all I could think. Rushing to the computer and the girls jump on my lap, I find a fully active and live feed coming in, and this coming in from all over the planet. What I saw made my blood absolutely run cold. Multiple fleets of strange ships are in heavy combat with forces all over trying to secure beachheads in certain areas. On the ground, alien creatures of different species force their way onto the planet via shuttles or some sort of directable gravity device or some sort of thing. There's no physical anything that I can see. They just kind of step into the beam and up and or down they go. Weird. The creatures on the ground seem to be armed with energy weapons that fire very differently from each other. Seemingly certain species would carry certain weapons. A particular species would even carry an energy shield, which looked a lot like the ones that blonde German guy carries around all the time. Although from what I could see, these round shields don't have that central flaw where you can just, strike the center several times and break the shield off. The tall, skinny ones that I see have some sort of body covering energy shield too. They don't carry the other shield, but still. This energy shield seems great for anything like 7.62 by 39 or smaller, which is the AK round. It'll take at least a few hits before failing, which is enough protection, I guess, for him. But anything bigger? Oh, that's going clean through from what I can see. There are a lot of these other creatures. They're about, I don't know, 5.5 feet. Big, round, big arms. It's weird. They're built almost like gorillas, but they got some sort of weird suit on them. These creatures are almost always in a group, and they seem nasty, but just like any gang, looks like once you show that you're willing to fight back, their balls fall off and they run like little bitches as they just kind of waddle away with their arms flailing in the air, screaming. It's weird to see this. The really big ones that are there are a problem. I don't know what the hell those things are, but the armor they wear would even deflect 50 caliber rounds as long as it's striking the armor itself and not getting through the gaps. Grenades don't seem to affect them much unless you get behind them, where they have a bit less armor. Two things seem to work well though. Explosives, if you can get it right spot, and good old-fashioned fire, because fire is cool. It was interesting to see a bunch of folks ambush these things with multiple Molotov cocktails, forcing the thousands of leeches this thing is made out of to try and scatter as they seemingly screech and die from the flames. Some of them, most of them actually, as soon as you warm them up, seem to pop like a balloon. Kind of gross, actually. Still, once you do that, you have to run because there's going to be another one, and it's going to be freaking out. Like they say, always two there are, no more and no less. A real pain seems to be these giant apes with almost reptilian-like heads on them, each one standing somewhere between 8 and 10 feet tall, and they use energy weapons along with this strange type of N32, but theirs looks like, is that chain fed? What the hell? Their body armor is also thick, even though they don't wear a lot of it, with very, very strong bodies. Holy crap. I look to see how big my muscles are, and I'm just like, dude, this furry guy, he wins. With all that mass, it makes them very difficult to kill for sure, as just stabbing them just seems to piss them off. Though once they're mad, their insistence on charging right at people makes them very easy to hit, and they don't even care what type of weapon. It could be a simple M4, it could be an AK, could be a Barrett, could be a 240. Doesn't matter, they're running right into the bullets. Dumbasses. Their vehicles seem to primarily use some sort of repulsor tech and energy weapons, which one might think gives them an edge, but not really. I mean, yeah, they don't have to reload, but the fact that they seemingly need to keep the weight very far down leaves the occupants pretty exposed. This makes most of their ground vehicles pretty ineffective if you can just, shoot the driver and off it goes into the side of a bridge or into the side of a building, and then all of a sudden they're stuck there, and forget mobility, now you're just a target. In the air, the aircraft of this world fired beyond visual range and cleared the skies of hostile fighters. Most of the enemy transports were taken out too, as they don't have energy shields. An okay amount of armor, but not enough to take that sort of a hit. Watching one get hit and seeing the invaders get launched out both sides of their troop transport like frickin' wine corks put a smile on my face. The large ships were something else entirely. Those bulbous ships don't move all that fast, but they are absolutely covered in weapons. The guided blue balls of death could be avoided or outrun by our fighters, but the fighters couldn't get a single good hit in. The amount of point defense energy weapons is just, well, nuts. Even a robust A-10 couldn't even get close, and all the missiles were simply swatted out of the sky by the insane amount of energy blast going through. Thankfully, there were only 3 groups on the planet that I could see. The first alien fleet wasn't much of a fleet, as it only had one massive white ship, a single smaller purple ship of, well, it looks like similar design. Looks like they, put it through the dryer and it just shrunk. Two other purple ships of similar size, yet the front was very bulbous and the stern has some sort of weird fins on the back. The hell is that thing? And then, what was it, 10 oddly looking purple ships that seem to have some sort of repulsor landing gear on the bottom? The hell, really? This fleet was over a city on the edge of Kenya, seemingly trying to burn into the mantle of the planet. They had already leveled almost the entire city by the time I saw it. The second alien fleet had the same composition of ships, but was actually decked out more in red colors than blue, and was 3 times as many of those fat ships with that strange landing type structure on the bottom. They had seemingly appeared right between Vladivostok and Mongolia, and they simply spread it out and headed south. From there, they started landings and focused on major cities and taking absolutely no prisoners. During the time I was taken down by the distortion to now, 500 million had already been killed as these two groups had expanded across the planet. The third fleet looked human, very human, with one massive ship that looked like a giant metal turd, another smaller ship that looked like it was a bunch of hexagonal building blocks turned sideways, two smaller ships that seemed sleeker with very large engines in the back. All of them looked like warbirds to me, definitely set up to fight. I wasn't sure if they would be able to take on these aliens. I mean, they seemed severely outnumbered. That is, until I saw what was accompanying them. A very large ship rose from the ground and joined the group. This dreadnought was about as big as the giant turd, yet it was clearly designed using industrial chic. Had to have been built here. This new ship rose out of the U.S. with two smaller ships on its port side. They immediately headed out across the Atlantic, and as they passed by Europe, another ship joined them, then another, and another. Soon the fleet was easily double its size. Passing south of Moscow, another large ship rose up. This ship was not as grandiose nor complete, but apparently it was ready to fight. They headed east to the fleet that had decimated Beijing and was halfway down towards Hong Kong. If you looked on the map, from Shanghai to Chongqing, the country absolutely burned. From all the way inside Russia to that line was on fire. The only area the aliens couldn't destroy easily was actually Korea. Every time they found an entrance to the labyrinth in the tunnels in the north, the vaults, hordes of ooze-filled creatures would charge their lines. This would cause massive casualties for them before they could push forward to the fortress that South Korea had now become. Any incursion into the southern half of the peninsula found themselves under fire by a horde of angry, screaming, ballistic-throwing, claymore-wearing locals that made even the giant monkeys shake in fear. As the human fleet cleared the horizon, the new human fleet prepared to show these alien assholes what they had been working on for the past decade or so. Before that, the new arrivals fired their massive ballistic weapons that arced with the gravity of the planet. As the first few energy weapons fired from alien lines, they found themselves peppered by masses of tungsten ripping into the enemy fleet. A few of the alien ships fell to this onslaught, but most were, just grazed, or the weapons just bounced off. Then the home fleet cleared the horizon and fired their energy weapons. After a slight buildup of energy, the beams came out and cut into the enemy fleet as 10 ships dropped out of the giant turd. These ships immediately turned and fired a volley of their own projectile weapons right before the first group had recharged their cannons and fired again. The battle that we thought would last for an hour was over in less than 2 minutes, at least for the ships in the sky. Each of the alien ships had either crashed or made hard landings as they could not stay aloft. Not giving the enemy a chance to regroup, all friendly ships sent every transport they had to the surface to face those on the ground. Upon reaching the DZ, it was clear that the scope of destruction and slaughter was actually beyond reason for a human. Armored infantry of all sizes hit the ground shooting. Vehicles of all sizes rolled out. Infantry and magic users flooded the area alongside them. The aliens on the ground found out that taking Earth was not going to be easy. In fact, it will be completely impossible. Through a mixture of science and sorcery, the mix of alien species would have two choices: surrender or die. A few of the smaller ones chose the first option. The rest, well, they should have chose option A. As everyone was fixated on the battle that they were watching now, almost no thought was given to the destruction in Kenya. Yet, soon enough, no one was going to give a shit about what was happening in China anyway. In the middle of the Australian outback, an entire area was being mutated by something that had came in through the distortion, something so dangerous that even the slightest particle couldn't be ignored. A single ship of mutated hell had slowly stretched across the barren outback. In the midst of the dry season, the mutation moved much slower, as it didn't have much to feed on, but it didn't stop. The moment that it was confirmed that the continent had been infected with this freakishly strong mutagenic substance, those in command of all the militaries on the planet had no choice. For the first time ever, the outback would become hotter. It would become so hot that it will quite literally melt the area into glass. Nearly an entire continent was carpet bombed with nukes. Though significantly cleaner than those back used in the 40s, the yield, and more importantly, the thermal discharge, is significantly higher than what was used before. In fear of the infection, anyone not already leaving the island was considered lost. As such a beautiful continent burned, the red heart of the continent was turned black, and the entire world fell silent at the sight of this loss. Showing their resolve, the Earth governments already had additional transports moving as the newcomers and the Earth-made ships made their way to Kenya to rip this next community covenant of alien assholes a new sphincter as they penetrate the enemy ships with energy weapons and ballistic hell at 500 millimeters in diameter. After losing even more of our population, half a country of them, and even losing an entire continent, the Earth forces wanted to make them hurt. As the first boots hit the ground after the sky was clear of capital ships, each leader, from general to team leader, screamed the same order: "Kill them all!" The forces on the shoreline of Kenya had much more time to prepare for the human invasion. It would not matter, though. Magical and technological shields protected the humans' advance as artillery and airstrikes broke the enemy lines with high explosives and white phosphorus. Or if they ran out of that, there's always sticky fire. As they advance, a live stream comes from one of the men on the ground. As he turned the corner of the street, a green ball of energy is fired from a shoulder-mounted weapon. He immediately drops just in time as the energy to ricochet off the building and explode across the street. The soldier didn't see this, raised his weapon and fired on the alien that shot at him and ended that alien. And as his friend helped him up, the soldier asked, "Did that explode?" His teammate turned to him and said, Nah, it bounced off the wall and exploded over there, as he pointed across. The soldier seemed to turn sideways. The camera counted a little bit. It bounces? Who designs a gun that bounces? That has to be the worst gun ever. Of all, he didn't get to finish as a beam of purple light streaked right past his head and struck the wall. With that, the soldiers on the ground got back to what they were there to do, fucking someone's face in. As the battle spun down, I finally got a really good look at the new humans that had seemed to come in through this distortion. When I saw one of these armored soldiers in green, and some of them even in blue armor, I looked down at myself. I know what I've become, and why my girls look even smaller to me now. As light as they were before, I also worried that I might accidentally throw them over the house if I tried to pick them up now that my muscles are so strong. It suddenly hit me why I was having so much trouble controlling my body before. Sure, I got up just fine. I didn't recognize the fact that when I got up, I actually came off the ground because I stood up so fast. I've really got to regulate my power before I end up hurting someone I care about. The girls, they might think it's cool to have me just these so tall and so big. And I'm pretty certain a certain French girl might keep looking me up and down, but I know I really need to make a phone call right now, even though I can see her in my peripheral vision just constantly looking me up and down. Girl, you're a little creepy. I'll make the call later, though. Right now, I'm just really hungry, and large bodies actually require a lot more nutrients. Getting up, I realize that I'm still a bit exposed and head to the closet. Suddenly, looking in the closet, I just yell, "Son of a bitch!" With that, the ladies rush in and ask me what's wrong. And I tell them nothing's gonna fit anymore, except for a few of these oversized shirts and maybe these sweatpants. Oh, fuck. And we just went shopping too, didn't we? Hello, everybody. This is Syntax. Thank you so much for joining me on today's chapter. Before I go, I need to send out a giant thank you to one of my supporters. That would be SS Demon. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Everybody else, I'll see you on the next one. This is Syntax, ejecting.